Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video, we will look at
Transpiration, factors affecting transpiration and the cohesion tension theory. Transpiration is the loss of water from the leaves of a plant. Most of this occurs on the underside of the leaf, most importantly. Most plants control their water intake by opening and closing stomata. So this happens when water levels change in the guard cells around each stomata. So it's the guard cells that are going and controlling the size of that stomata or whether it's open or closed. Transpiration rates also vary naturally in response to environmental factors such as temperature and humidity. Transpiration explains how water moves, most importantly, up the plant against gravity in tubes made out of dead xylem cells without the use of a pump. Water on the surface of spongy and palisade cells, so those inside the leaves, evaporates and then diffuses out of the leaf. So this is called transpiration or evapotranspiration. More water is drawn out of the xylem cells inside of the leaf to replace what's lost. As the xylem cells make a continuous tube from the leaf down the stem to the roots, this acts like a drinking straw, producing a flow of water and dissolved minerals from the roots all the way up to the leaves. Factors that speed up translation will also increase the rate of water uptake from the soil. When water is scarce or the roots are damaged, it increases a plant's chance of survival if the transpiration rate can be slowed down. Water taken up by the root hairs moves across the cortex of the root, either via the cytoplasm of the cells in between the root hair cells and the xylem. So that's the simplest pathway, all through the cell walls are going around the cells, right? That is called the apoplatz pathway. Stomata are tiny openings or pores in a plant that allow for gas exchange. Stomata are typically found in plant leaves but can also be found on some stems. Specialized cells known as guard cells, like we said earlier, surround the stomata and open and close it. So the stomata can be opened and closed to prevent water loss. Guard cells can curve apart when turgid, so they're turgid when they're full of water. So when flaccid, the edges of these cells lie closer together. So however, this drastically slows transpiration and means that no carbon dioxide can enter the leaves, so that will affect the rate of photosynthesis. So it's the guard cells that actually regulate the rate of transpiration. It's the guard cells that control the rates of water loss and gain and the rate of gas exchanges as well. So these kidney-shaped guard cells can change shape to control the size of the pore. So the pore is basically the stomata. So water will diffuse out and evaporate away much faster in less humid, dry, hotter or windy weather conditions. Stomata close automatically if the water supply begins to dry up to reduce water loss. The guard cells will respond to the ambient conditions. So, for instance, they'll close up if the stomata, or they'll close the stomata if the rate of water loss is too great for the amount of water that is being replenished by the roots. When a plant has lots of water, the guard cells become swollen, right? So that's when they become turgid, and the stomata open to increase the rate of water loss, but also increase the intake of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, right? And that's important because a plant needs to go and get lots of carbon dioxide all the way up to its palisade cells in order to photosynthesize effectively. So when the plant is short of water, the guard cells lose water and become flaccid or limp, and the stomata are closed to decrease the rate of water loss. If the plant is very short of water, the cytoplasm inside the cells shrinks and the cell membrane comes away from the cell wall, which is quite rigid. So this is a process called plasmosis, and the cell is said to be plasmidized. The guard cell is also responds to light levels. They close at night time to help save water, conserve photosynthesis, and open up again when daylight returns in order to allow gas exchange. So if we're looking at to describe how the stomata open and close, key things to talk about are the fact that the guard cells open and close based around turgor pressure to control the stomatal diameter, therefore the water loss from the stomata. A low turgor pressure and hormonal signals causes the guard cells to close the pore when there is a need to conserve water. A high turgor pressure, due to a large amount of water, so large amounts, being actively transported into them causes them to open up, allowing the water to evaporate out. So you usually find the stomata on the underside of the leaves compared to the top. The lower leaf surface is more shaded and cooler, so this reduces our water loss compared to the water loss that would happen on the upper surface of the leaf. So plants growing in hot climates need to conserve water, and so they have fewer and smaller stomata on the underside of their leaves and no stomata on the upper epidermal surface. It is changes in the concentration of iron inside the guard cells that help facilitate them opening and closing stomata. When a guard cell loses water, this causes the cell to become flaccid and the stomata openings close, reducing water loss. This occurs when plants have lost an excessive amount of water or if the light levels drop and the use of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis decreases. So the plants grow at higher temperatures have a much lower stomata per meter squared, or millimeter squared. This would be an advantage to the plant because the transpiration rate increases as temperature increases. So explain why the transpiration rate increases when temperature increases. Some easy things is to talk about them having more kinetic energy, so they will diffuse faster or evaporate faster. So from this point, diffusion must relate to the movement of water, right? So it's important to talk about the movement of water if you are talking about diffusion. Right, if we go and look at the cohesion tension theory, so water is a polar molecule and binds to other water molecules by hydrogen bonding called cohesion. Water also binds to the cellulose molecules of the cell walls by hydrogen bonding called adhesion. There is a continuous column of water connected by hydrogen bonds from where the water evaporates off the surface of the cells into the air spaces in the leaf, all the way down to where it is entering in the roots from the soil. When water evaporates from the surface of these cells, more water moves in to take their place. This movement of water pulls the whole column of water up all the way through the plant. So this is called the cohesion tension theory because there is a continuous column of water created by cohesion of water molecules, and the column of water is under tension created by transpiration. So if we're outlining what is meant by a transpiration stream, key things to talk about are that water molecules evaporate from the surface of the mesophyll cells, then move into the air spaces in the leaf and out and diffuse through the stomata. This loss of water lowers the water potential, so the water moves from neighbouring cells into the cells, so water is just evaporated from by osmosis. This is repeated all the way back to the xylem. So adhesion and cohesion result in the water being pulled up the xylem vessel in a phenomenon called capillary action. Water moves against the force of gravity, so transpiration pull is the continuous movement of water up the plant, and water is moving from the roots up the xylem. So there are a few factors that affect transpiration. You've got temperature, humidity, air movement and light intensity. So basically the same as anything that would affect the rate of evaporation. So if we're looking to describe the cohesion tension theory of water, key things to put is that water is being lost from the leaf because of transpiration. So molecules diffuse from the mesophyll into the leaf cells of the leaf cells. So transpiration, evaporation or diffusion of water molecules is occurring through the stomata of the leaf. So this lowers the water potential of the mesophyll cells in the leaf. So water is pulled up the xylem, creating tension. Water molecules cohere or stick together by hydrogen bonding. And finally, they adhere to the walls of the xylem.
Thanks for watching.